being chatted to already.
Hey guys, welcome. Rule Zero, the most popular 11 a.m. show on YouTube right now about male sexual strategy.
You had to go there. You had to do it.
Yeah, go with it. Go with it. Run with it.
It's not bragging if it's true. This one's going to be pretty straightforward.
The only one in this time slot.
So I'll keep this one simple. A lot of you guys may not know what the heck Rule Zero means, so I was going to start with a little description, and then we're going to get into the topic, which is essentially a lot of the guys here are brand new. They've never actually read The Rational Male yet. They've never followed Rich Cooper or myself or Carl. And so for you guys, we're kind of going to do a bare bones definition of terms. So we're all working from the same playbook here. There's a lot of misinformation out, and I think it's best if we just understand what the heck we're talking about so you guys don't end up screwing it up. So Rule Zero, we had a rule on Reddit of all places where a lot of guys were talking about sexual strategy and positive male identity. The problem was a lot of guys kept coming in and they wanted to argue, or they just wanted to defend women, or women would come in there and they want to complain and get you to justify yourself. So Rule Zero was this overarching rule that all the guys used. And in this case, it was the Rule Zero is people that are in this space are here to discuss male sexual strategy and positive male identities. And if you're not here for that, then you're out. And that has been, in one form or another, kind of the guiding principle of at least everybody on this panel, if not everybody that I've known in this space who I still look up to and respect to this day. The end of the day, we're all here to help build men up. A rising tide lifts all boats. And so that's the meaning behind Rule Zero. Plus, when you have a Z in your name, it sounds very cool and edgy. It's like X Games, but with a Z. So I figure who better to start us off than Rollo? You've been here the longest. You've kind of started it. You were the original R of the... Actually, were you the original, or was it Royce, or was it?
No. You know, it's funny. I got tossed into that. No, it was Royce, Roosh, and then Rollo. That's the 3 R's of the Manosphere.
But you're on the way out then. So I figure who better to start with? How does a guy first find this space, and how does he start understanding what it is we do? Because a lot of guys think we're politics, ideology, cults, everything basically about a bunch. But except for a bunch of guys who just want to get, laid or have their wives love them again.
Right. Well, first off, the red pill has become bastardized. It is, it's no longer what at least from my perspective, and everything I'm about to tell you is from my own perspective here. So from my perspective, and being in this sphere, if you want to call it the manosphere or the community or whatever, I don't even know what to call it at this stage, but from like the early 2000s all the way up to where we are, almost 20 years now, the manosphere, for lack of a better term, has been developing, and what it is really is just an aggregate of men's experiences. It's because we have the internet age. It's because we have these forums. It's because we have this new kind of interactivity between men, so we can actually compare notes right now. There's subsets of it, of course, but there's what we kind of, colloquially refer to as the manosphere, is really this consortium of guys coming together and sharing an experience about what it is to be a guy, what is it to be a man. And so what's happened, I think, is a lot of people have taken that really good intentions of that and used it as sort of a way to either market themselves, market their brand of me. If you watched any of my my speech for the 21 convention last year, I talked about this quite a bit in the State of the Manosphere address. So I'm not going to cover any of this old ground, but what is going on right now in the sphere is exactly what I was talking about in that State of the Manosphere address. And so really what we are right now, I think, is we're trying to sort of define what it is that we're about. Are we about politics? Are we about intersectional dynamics? Are we about, what is it? Are we about religion? Are we about traditional conservatism? Are we even about liberalism? Because I know that there's some guys that are saying, you know what, I'm a libertarian, but I'm also red pill. I've read The Rational Male, and I understand what they're talking about in The Rational Male. And I think it's sort of lost its meaning right now. The red pill as a term is whatever anybody else wants. And in that speech, I also talked about this. I also talked about the fact that it's become something that is only meaningful to people in a certain context. So I'll hear people will talk, from a political situation, and they'll say, or the political perspective, and they'll say, I just got red pilled, or I was red pilled about this, or I was red pilled about politics. I was red pilled about the fact that we're in, we're going to go to war with Iran or something like that. That kind of stuff. To me, that's not red pill. Red pill has always been about intersexual dynamics. And when I talk about it, if I refer to the red pill, that's what I'm talking about. It's a shame that I even have to make that, clear every time I talk about stuff like this. So when I'm doing this, when I'm writing, when I'm doing whatever, understand whenever I say red pill aware, that means you're aware of intersexual dynamics from the perspective of the rational male, from the perspective of what this consortium of guys has been developing for 20 years right now. So that's...
Yeah, well, you think about those 25-year-old guys who come and first find you, they don't care about that crap. All they want is, like you said, they just want to be able to get laid. And then they eventually find self-actualization through that. And I'm not going to lie, I can't stop staring at Rich's chest right now. Homo, but my God, that's a specimen.
I tried to crop it out, but you guys are going to have to suck it up.
Oh, man.
It's not very warm here much of the year, so.
If that's not meme fuel, I don't know what is.
I'm sure some faggot will meme it.
Just paint them green.
I'm sure the meme is already out there right now.
There you go.
So anyways, I was just going to say is, like, for me, going forward from where we're at right now, the red pill is always going to be intersexual dynamics. I'm not deviating from that. My rule has always been this. For people who don't know, I was a moderator for the SoSwab forums for almost, 10 or 12 years. And on that forum, we had a rule. Well, actually, we had several rules, but the main rule was that you stick to talking about intersexual dynamics. You stick to talking about, like, either pickup artistry or how to, maybe how to have a better marriage, maybe how to do, whatever it was. It could be a lot of things. A lot of topics are under the umbrella of intersexual dynamics. But when it came to talking about race, when it came to talking about religion, when it came to talking about politics, all of those threads would get killed if it was just about those things. And I've sort of had the same policy on the rational male, because I want to focus on nothing but intersexual dynamics. Now, does that cross over into politics? Yes, of course it does. I was just talking to Rich about what's the guy who was the Secretary of Defense guy. I forget the guy's name. God, I was just talking about it yesterday. No, Rumsfeld. It starts with an S. Anyway, we're talking about it, and he was nominated to be the Secretary of Defense, or the department head for the Pentagon, and he had to turn it down because he had a domestic violence story or something in his past. And it wasn't about him. It was about his wife. His wife was the one who was convicted of domestic violence, not him. But because of that, he had to turn down that position because he said he didn't want to drag his family through it, whatever. If you look at, like, say, the Kavanaugh hearings, when we were talking about the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh, when we went through all that bullshit, that's intersexual dynamics. Because of intersexual dynamics, because of Me Too, because of all that stuff, that is affecting politics. So in that sense, yes, I'll talk about that, but I'm not going to say, well, you should be wearing a red hat all the time and Trump. I'm not that guy. Okay. I'm the guy who's going to say.
Rich was saying before, where he doesn't like talking about just banging broads and that, because he's past that. He's got that under him. But now that he's got that foundation, he focuses on bigger and better things. And I've seen his car. They're bigger and they're better.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say is that I think that if we can focus on just one thing, if we can have sort of a mission statement here, which is it's all about intersexual dynamics. It's all about understanding the relations between men and women, and from there take that to whatever it is that you want, wherever you want to take it. But like now we're seeing, well, now it's all about success. It seems to me that the Manosphere, and I'm not picking anybody right now, but it seems to me that the Manosphere has turned into three things. It's success porn, which we've done shows on in the past. It's the Tony Robbins RSD kind of stuff, where it's like it's all about mindset and it's all about positivity and everything. And then there is the softer purple pill side of the Manosphere, which is, oh, girls smell nice, right? So it's success porn, girls smell nice, and Deus Volt, man. Let's all, it's all about the politics side of things. It seems like that.
You called all of those out, didn't you?
Yeah, I called all of those out because, and that's really what it's devolved into right now. It's devolved into success porn, girls smell nice, and Deus Volt. And well, honestly, I think the red pill's lost its way. Simple as that. Well, but what are you going to do? It's decentralized. There's no, like, you want to call me the godfather of the Manosphere, fine, okay, but it's decentralized. And that's the thing, is that it can go off in any direction. And that's the problem when guys coming into this, and that's the whole purpose of us talking about this, the guys coming into this with fresh eyes, guys who are like, what's this red pill stuff all about? What's this Manosphere thing all about? What's this community of guys all about?
Yeah, well, that's why.
And then they see this, and they see this circular firing squad, and they go, "Well, fuck this. This is stupid." Of course, I've said this a million fucking times, and I'll say it again: that the red pill needs to be amoral, apolitical, areligious, aracial, and it needs to focus on one thing and let guys make decisions for themselves instead of directing them to whatever your fucking farm is. Right? It's like this. I've heard it put this way, that there is a river of money out there, and all I have to do is find a way to divert that river, or some of that river, over to my little farm. And that's what I see happening right now, is this river, and everybody's trying to divert it to like whatever their spot is. And I'm not picking, because there's a lot of guys on YouTube right now who are lifting my material because of the same thing. That they want to, I mean, in some cases, literally reading directly from the Rational Mail and calling it their own shit. Now, I've always said that the red pill is open source, and I'm happy that they're doing that. I'm happy that they're spreading that message, but there's a fine line between open source and plagiarism.
Yeah. Well, what were you saying on that, Carl?
Well, the post I wrote about it was, in frustration, I kind of drew on things, because I've been trying to delineate this for a while. Because the Manosphere, or Soyosphere, as Christian McQueen said, they put it a few years back, it's kind of a lot of different things, and it kind of gets lumped together. And you have that great post on balkanization, and I think it's actually a good thing that it's happening, because the way I saw it when I started breaking it down is like, you have point A that just deals with the descriptive praxeology that describes the reality of intersexual dynamics. You have B, that is basically perspectives on how you should use that information, the motorcycle manuals, like you have the married red pill, you have the various game blogs, etc. Then under C, you get various individuals and groups that say A is part of what we think, but we have other elements in here, like they'll bring in politics, they'll bring in the purple pill, they'll bring in Christianity, or whatever religion they subscribe to, or whatever political or ideology they're with. And then D, that's just various hucksters, cult leaders, scam artists, con men, opportunists, and men seeking to find a tribe to belong to desperately. So they're basically sheep looking for a shepherd. And for the most part, over the last couple of years, C and D has been like 80% of what you see, especially on Twitter, and very little focus on A and B. And for the most part, I think most guys need to learn about A. They don't have to know it in detail. Like, some of the worst guys I interact with are the guys who will go into something I tweeted or something. Well, on page 47, paragraph 3 of the Rational Male Preventative Medicine, Rollo says this. How does that link up with what you're saying here? And I'm like, well, it upset me when they cut out that part of Lord of the Rings too, but I got over it.
Well, Rich, you're the one who got us all started on this with that great video you put out, the problem with the Manosphere.
Yeah, that was a typo initially, but we'll go with Manosphere, the fruitcake nightclub, whatever it is you want to call it. Yeah, I mean, like I covered it in depth. I mean, there's a lot of people that had some very positive feedback, and there's also some that didn't have any positive feedback whatsoever. But I don't really care because I don't care about those people. But those are just my observations. I mean, it's turned into a scenario where there's a lot of people that can easily get a platform and manufacture a story about the success they've had with women, with their business, with pickup artistry, with whatever it is you want to fill in the blank with. And I know these guys, man. I know them. And most of them, when I say most of them, I'm talking the majority of them are full of it. And they simply cannot deliver on what it is that they're talking about. And some of them are just downright dangerous, right?
Yes.
But it's very easy to come off as an expert. All you need is an internet connection and a freaking keyboard. And if you're a good enough storyteller with decent photography or some, video skills, you too can convince a massive sheep to follow you.
Which is messed up too, because like how many guys are lost at the point that a random person on the internet is all you need to follow?
Right.
Well, I've done a lot of photo shoots just like Rollo did back in the day.
Yeah.
And you know how much it costs to set up a photo shoot where you look like $1 million. I mean the cars, the women, the great apartment.
That's pretty easy.
Photo
it's very easy.
It's $5 to $10,000, and you can have that done in like a 2-hour photo shoot. If you spend a day on it,
Lamborghini and shake hands with my hero.
Well, it's like what you do is you just need to. Ideally, you want to borrow an exotic car. You just tell a dealership, "Hey, I have 50,000 followers on my Instagram. I want to borrow a car. I'll make sure that your logo is visible in some of the pictures I share with my 50,000 followers, and they'll lend you a freaking car." You go to a hotel or a place that rents short-term luxury apartments, you can rent one of those for. Well, if you go to parts of Asia, you can.
Dude, you don't even have to rent the hotel. You can just go to a hotel with your camera crew and walk through it and film your shit in there. Ask me how I fucking know.
I just to sort of open this up into instead of shit slinging, let's what I want to say is that the cost of entry is a whole lot less than at any other time in the human history, right? So anybody can be like Zig Ziglar now. Anybody can be L. Ron Hubbard. Anybody can be like Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a fan. If we're gonna pick on somebody, let's pick on Tony Robbins. You got to admire the hustle, but that's all it is just the hustle. And I wrote about this back at the beginning of May, called essay called False Positives, and it was, where's the balance? Where's the balance between what is the truth and what is all about the hustle? And what is your priority? What becomes, what drives you the most? And obviously, like I'm talking to Rich here, who Rich, doesn't do anything for free. And I don't think any of us really want to do anything for free, but we still have to balance that with what is our priority. If we weren't getting paid for this, like, will we still be doing it? Now, I'm a previously in a previous life, I was a musician, and I did it because I knew that I could get laid. I love the music, and it sure as shit wasn't for the money. Okay. Because nobody was getting paid, and still nobody's getting paid right now. But like what's happened in the music industry is that guys who are in it right now are like completely weesh or whatever that means, but they're completely like soy right now. I know. But you have to, if you're getting into music right now, you're not doing it for the money, because there is no money in music right now. But are you an artist? Do you do it just because you love to make music? Are you an artist because you actually love to paint? Are you an artist because you like to sculpt or whatever? And would you do that if you weren't getting paid? There was a time, actually, the most of the writing that I've done in my life, I was doing on free forums. You could still get my material for free on the Rational Mail. You could still, almost everything that's in the books, you can get for free on my blog. If $9.99 is too much for you, please go check out the first year, the best of first year links on my site, because I would say at least half of that stuff on there is in that book. So do we have a commitment and an obligation to truth, or do we have a commitment and an obligation to hustling the most money out of whoever is? It's easy to find suckers, okay? It's easy to find people who will pay you X amount of dollars for whatever it is. It's the oldest story in the book, right? Ever
I
since,
don't
like,
even
say,
think that stuff matters, though. I
Yeah,
was thinking
well,
about it. Like, imagine asking
people
a doctor,
always want a
like,
magic
are you in it
pill.
for the money?
Yeah. Are you in, yeah, exactly. Are you in it for the money, or are you in it for because you actually want to help people out? Do you have an obligation to truth, or do you have an obligation to yourself? And I'm not saying you even have to make a choice between those two, but
be both.
the truth has to be there, because after a while that shit's going to catch up with you. Now, what I was going to say is that there is such a low entry point to get into this right now, because I've got this great computer, I've got this camera, I've got this mic, for under $1,000 you can get into podcast shit. You don't even need that. All you need is this. All you need is this to start your own podcast. You don't have to even have all the gear that most people think they have to have.
That's what I'm using right now.
But here's the thing is, and I was just reading, I'm reading this book, and it's called Writing Without Bullshit. And I think I've referred you guys to it a couple of times. And what it is it's sort of how to write without bullshit, right? Write without all this fluff, or write without this pretense. And it's an analysis of how we have gone from the old style of writing to the new style of writing. And the old style is there used to be editors. There used to be checks and balances. If you were going to write a book, you had to have an editor that would edit your book, and then it would go to publish. And you had to have a publisher who would approve of that. There was all of these checks and balances. So not just anybody could be a publisher, or could be a published author. Not just anybody could write. Believe it or not, journalists used to have editors, and they used to actually have to, go through journalistic, ethical training and this kind of shit. Not anymore. All of those checks and balances between the content creator and the public, making it an official statement, all of that's gone. So right now, all I have to do to write an email to somebody is just type it out and it goes. A CEO back in like the 80s or the 90s used to write a memo. It had to go through a secretary. Secretary would say this. It would have to go through the board. They would go, okay, yeah, that's good. Go put that as a memo. That's out there. Now it's just pop, 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 and it's gone. And
I don't even mind that, because right now the onus is on the person reading it to try and experience themselves. That's how this all works.
Okay, so you're tracking with me when it comes to writing and it comes to making the message. Okay, now track with me on this one. Writing is just one thing that we used to have checks and balances for. We don't have checks and balances for jack shit anymore. We don't have we don't have checks and balances. Anybody can go on and say, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a drop shipping business. I'm an entrepreneur, right? Nobody's there saying, well, do you have an MBA? Did you go to college for that? Did you do any, like, I get checked all the fucking time for, he's not Dr. Tomassi. He doesn't have a doctorate in psychology. We should just not listen to him. Like, I talk about this on Pat's show. Like, people will hit me up and say, what's his credentials? What makes him the guy that can talk about this kind of stuff?
Which authority do we appeal to?
Yeah, exactly. And that's just credentialism is what that is. But there is there has to be some sort of standard for you to get from being just a regular guy working in a cubicle job to being a life coach, right? What is it that qualifies you for that? What is it that qualifies you to talk about what it is that you're talking about? And there is no checks and balances. There is no qualification. There's no certification that I'm aware of for anybody to want to be a life coach. You just go, oh, here's my blog, right? Oh, yeah, you don't even have to start a blog. There's templates for it. Just pop, 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 and it's ready to go. If you want to be an entrepreneur, well, I got a drop shipping thing. Pop, pop, pop. I'm done. I'm an entrepreneur now. And
that's the great thing about Kyle, because he's anonymous.
There's no checks and balances. There's no, like, I cut my teeth doing this. Like, if I go and right now, if I wanted to, I could go and become a professional studio musician if I wanted to. I could go in and say, look, I've done this. What do you want me to play? Here we go. Great. Because I have a history of what it is that I have done up to that point, right? I studied this. I did that. I experienced this. I went through like cubicle jobs before I got to where I'm at. I went through all of this kind of stuff. And so you've got that as a background. But there's no checks and balances. There's nothing that says, there's nothing that
pre-qualifies though, because what sells on social media is pure ethos. It's like, if
guys, you guys,
my life based on my $2,000 video package that I shot in a hotel that we just happened to walk through with a camera crew, and every guy in the reception just figured, hey, they're here with a camera crew. They must have
they're
got permission
famous.
from
It's a
someone.
music video. Can you like we talk about this a lot, and I don't think it's really clear for a lot of people. But you know, when you guys talk about ethos, pathos, logos, can you guys maybe Ryan? Do you want to give a brief description of what all those are?
Well, yeah, the simple answer, they're all just forms of rhetoric that people use for persuasion. Just think of ethos as status, or pre-selection if you want to use pickup terms. Pathos was just emotional feel goods, and logos was, it's not even logic, it's just the appearance of logic.
Mm-hmm.
If that helps, here are some quick shorthand things here. But
yeah. Well, so
that's
I
why
mean,
I love Carl, because he has absolutely no ethos. Like, you don't even know what he looks like. You barely know what he sounds like. And so he doesn't have any of that stuff to fall back on, which is awesome.
Right. Well, like when I look at Rich has a history and a background to him. Like Rich can talk about things, speak to things that I can't talk about. I've never been through a divorce, so it would be stupid for me to be. I'm just going to take this off here. It would be stupid for. I know, right? I know. This is the hardest fucking thing to get these damn things to stick to the wall. No, I was just going to say is like Rich has gone through some shit, right? I can't speak to divorce in the same way he can. So he's got a show called, Before the Train Wreck. Now I can add my 2 cents from what I know about, evolutionary psychology and from what I've written and my own experience, but I can't speak directly to the experience that he has when it comes to child support payments, when it comes to Duluth model feminism, when it comes to, going through the divorce machine. I can't talk to, and I wouldn't presume to, right? That's why I talk to guys like Rich. That's why I talk to guys like Marco Russo, and we we can share notes and we can compare notes. But like for instance, Rich has a successful business. I believe you're still doing that, right? The payment processing thing or the debt consolidation thing.
Well, I've got 3 businesses, but yeah, I mean,
mm-hmm. But so you've done this. I mean, it's like if you say I'm an entrepreneur, I'm ready to believe that. But if a guy who's got a drop shipping, business tells me he's an entrepreneur, all that is just a label.
Here's the thing, and here's how you separate the chaff from the wheat. Let's use an example like Elon Musk. You'll never find Elon Musk on social media banging his chest about how awesome he is, that he's a multimillionaire, that he's running the best electric car company in the world. Like you'll never hear any of that because successful people don't need to brag about their success. It precedes them. People recognize their products or services well in advance of them even walking into the room. But somebody that needs to constantly bang on their chest with arrogance and BS, you always got to question it. You know what I mean? Like you always got to take a close look at their life and then scratch beneath the surface, and often what you'll find, it's like an onion. As soon as you start peeling back the layers, you'll start tearing up like, holy shit, this is like all it's a house of cards. And one case after the other it's consistent. I found this time and time again. Now I'm 46. I didn't know this at 30, right? It took me a few years, it took me many mistakes, but I mean you can learn from my mistakes a lot faster than going through them yourself. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I'll add to what Rich is saying here because there's a good statement that I'm going to paraphrase from Margaret Thatcher. If you have to tell your girl that you have a big dick, you don't. Mm-hmm. If you feel the need to tell everyone you come in contact with that you have a big dick, you definitely don't. And the thing is, people tend to drive home about things that aren't real. And I got a lot of shit when I went on my entrepreneur rant on Twitter because by the standards of Twitter, a hooker blowing a guy behind the bus station for crack money is an entrepreneur.
Sex worker.
Yeah, she's an entrepreneur that's innovating and disrupting the pharmaceutical industry and the leisure industry. I mean, she could have a Twitter feed of like 100,000 people buying her $327 course.
Well, that's why I like experience. This is my favorite thing about this space that I've never found in other spaces, is that we can talk all day about, like we were just on with Troy talking about degeneracy, showing up at bondage parties and kink and that stuff. And I remember it was the point, I'm going to fluff myself here, but like I didn't know I wasn't into whipping until I got whipped. And a lot of guys here aren't going to know who's actually talking about sex or who's talking about success until they try some stuff out and find out what works and what doesn't. And then like Rich, he gets more experience. So as he gets more experience, he kind of gets a better sense of when he hears something that's new, like, does this fit within the mental models I already know? And he'll kind of have an intuitive sense that, yeah, this kind of makes sense. I'll give it a try. Or if he can spot BS right away. But you kind of have to experience. Like, I could read Rational Male all day, and you really should, and buy 10 copies, do what you got to do. But if all you do is just read it, then sit at home thinking about hypergamy, then you're not going to experience any of it, and you just you have no idea if it's more or less true until you actually go out and try.
It's kind of recognition, right? Like,
yeah.
If you run into with the crazy girls, like I didn't know what BPD looked like on a chick when I met my ex-wife. I sure as shit know what BPD looks like on a girl now. Like I didn't know, like the first salesman I ever met in a corporate setting. I mean, I felt like the only hot chick at a bar full of sailors. And he got the sale, but over time, you kind of start to realize that, okay, this is a pattern, and you know they all do this exact same thing. So, okay, this is probably a bullshit artist because he seems like 99% of all the other bullshit artists that I run into.
You know, I have heard it put this way, like when all the guys who are in like physical fitness, they're physical trainers, right? Or they've got like a clientele, I guess, of guys that they train and whatever. Okay, so that's a certified personal trainer. Like you'll see those guys at the gym, it'll say certified personal trainer on the thing. Now, what I hear from guys in the sphere always say this: they say, if your certified personal trainer is an overweight piece of crap, what does that say, right? Are you really going to take training advice from a guy who is more overweight than you are? Is that, I mean, when you look at the guy, if the guy's yoked and he's ripped and everything like that, and he looks the part, like maybe he actually does this kind of stuff. He emulates the actual, you know, what it is. He practices what he preaches, basically. I'm saying that the cost of entry now to get into certain things right now in the manosphere, in the positive thinking sphere, the Tony Robbins sphere, whatever, the bullshit sphere, is zero. They're all, you know, not say all, but most of them are guys who are personal trainers who are 50 pounds overweight. And you would look at those guys and you would say, why would I take advice from this guy if that's what I'm going to look like at the end of my training? And we'll apply that to personal training, you know, because, you know, the guys who are in the physical fitness sphere, that serves their purpose, that serves their own business by saying, just look at the guy. Are you actually going to take, you know, advice from this guy? Well, apply that to where we are right now when it comes to understanding, you know, the feminine imperative, understanding intersectional dynamics. Like, well, the cost of entry is low.
Like, who wants to fix your house? What are you supposed to do? Get 3 quotes, talk to multiple people. Don't trust the first lawyer you talk to.
Anybody can be.
Don't apply because we're talking about girls. Like, anybody
can be a personal trainer. Are you certified? Well, I don't know, but anybody can be a personal trainer. Anybody can be a life coach. Anybody can be, you know, whatever the hell they want to be online. And at the end of the day, it's like the proof is in the pudding, right? Like, what are your results? What are people saying about you? What, you know, like, say, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Well, what have you done? What are your achievements? What you know, first of all, what qualifies you for that? But like, what's the barrier of entry, I guess, was what I'm saying. The barrier of entry is low.
The one thing I don't get about life coaches is, like, how can you be a life coach? I get to meet someone who's a life coach who doesn't suck at life.
That's what Rich was saying. Man. That's what Rich was saying. So true. Like Rich was saying.
You know how many life coaches I've seen on social media that bang on about their life coaching services and they're drowning in credit card debt, or they're offering advice in areas that they have zero experience in. Like, I'm talking 23-year-olds. Like, shut up and go live some life and go do something. Put a dent in the universe before you're going to start telling people how to solve their own problems when you've got your own that are still, you know, dragging behind you like a ball and chain.
I have always felt this way about,
so
like, when it comes to awards and it comes to accolades. I mean, that's one thing, but it's not like the prizes that you get. I mean, it's nice to have a 100,000 viewer trophy, right? right, Rich? For YouTube, that's nice, but it's not about the trophy. It's about
it doesn't mean shit.
It's about your body of work. What
Correct.
does your body of work say about you? And at the end, like when you're on your deathbed, what's in your portfolio right before you die?
I'll be thinking about the guys who had a gun in their mouth, a noose around their neck, and a horse tranquilizer ready to kill themselves. I'll be thinking about those guys, not some plaque I got on the wall or some stupid award from some ceremony.
It's not about accolades. It's about your body of work. And what does your body of work say about you? What does it do?
Well, I like that because it's other people. Like Rich, I think Rich really got me on this. So what's in it for me? If you can't look in the audience shoes and answer that question from their perspective, then you're probably in it for them to worship you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not here for worship. I don't need to be a demagogue. At this end of the day, I just want to be able to say, and you guys all do these exact examples. Rollo wants to put out something so some guy can take from it a better life. Rich, even your other businesses there, they all have that same principle. What's in it for the person that comes to me?
Well, that's what I've done. I mean, like, I got a business that's like eliminated close to $100 million worth of credit card debt. I've never said that before, ever, anywhere, right? But you get a lot of people that brag about their businesses. Well, what have you done, right? What have you done? Tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, you're sitting there. But yeah, it's nice. It's kind of it's proper leadership. Like, I know maybe it's because I'm military here, but the idea of leadership, the officers letting the NCMs eat before they do, it's that burden. Like, yeah, you get the good life, you get to have your fancy car, the nice house, but at the same time, the people that you're leading have expectations, and if you don't meet those expectations, you're not a leader. All you are at that point is a parasite.
Right.
And I think that's
a major issue with. Well, I think that's a major issue with the whole modern leadership industry too, because I always thought the military has the right idea about leadership, because you still have to go through all the crap that the people who you are supposed to be leading have to go through. And that's kind of like my thing with people who call themselves an entrepreneur. If an entrepreneur is like, well, being an entrepreneur is great, I only work 3 days a week, then you're not an entrepreneur. Because I was called up 11 o'clock last night when I was half drunk off my ass by one of my employees who had a problem that had to be solved before morning because they had to close up. That's entrepreneurship. I mean, you don't work, you're on call constantly. And, you know, if you do your hourly wage, it doesn't get good until you have a huge ass business. Mm-hmm. And don't think, to go back and bash on life coaches some more. a lot of these people, like I told you, Ryan, the other day, I think we talked about it openly on Twitter. Like, if you decide to become a coach or consultant or something online, for a person who's actually worth getting consulting from, that's a pay cut for them. And they have to deal with a lot more assholes and a hell of a lot more grief than if they just done their day job.
Right.
Oh yeah, I can guarantee that. Ask me how I know.
Well, let's
see. Part of the problem with the whole coaching model, guys. Sorry to jump in, but I mean, like, part of the problem with the whole coaching model is these spurgs get pissed off when you want to charge for your time, but people don't pay attention unless they're paying. Okay. Rollo, you can probably attest to this because you've got pretty much your entire first book online in your first year blog. Yet people complain about paying $9.99 for a fucking book, or maybe whatever it is you might charge for a consult. But like, I get hit on all the time. Like, I actually rename my men's community the 1% because every time I look at all my stats everywhere, whether it's on my coaching platform, the conversion rate on my website to my community, and it's like peanuts, man. We're talking $38 a month, which is like the cost of a coffee a day. Mm-hmm. People will click through, they'll look at it, but they don't take action. It's only 1% that well. And those are the guys that I want to work with. Mm-hmm. I don't want to work with the lazy guys that want to point and sputter, or they want me to wave a magic wand and make them look like Brad Pitt so some girl will love their ass off. It's like, there's a whole lot more that's involved to it. And I'm not going to waste my energy and breath working with somebody that's not interested or committed to working on themselves by exchanging some sort of value for my time.
Yeah, they want the cheat codes. That's what they
want.
They want the magic pill that will make them look better, sound better, fuck better, they want to just suddenly.
And that's out there, but we don't sell that. Like, none of us sell that.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to point this out too, and this is going to sound a little maybe facetious of me, but like, Alexander Grace just got deplatformed, or he's just got demonetized. Okay. Now, I've locked horns with Alexander Grace in the past. It was about 6 months ago. I said, hey, look, man, the only reason you're coming out against the red, because he's been all about red pill, right? and then he's trying to pull himself away from it. And I was watching some of his stuff, and he's had some in the past. He's had some really good stuff. He's one of these
He's had some
guys.
really good interviews.
Yeah, he's got some really good interviews.
Yeah.
I think when he was focusing on intersexual dynamics, he was right on message the whole time. But then he decided that, he was going to soften his message and tone it down because he saw the storm coming, and the storm hit him. He just got demonetized, and exactly what I said back about 6 months ago. I said the only reason you are backing up off of this is because you know that it's not going to be marketable to you in the future, and you're trying to be careful. No, I'm not. Rollo, talk to me. And it was like it was this big, it was this big deal from it. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. And here we are. And I feel for the guy too, because like he's on camera just like at the verge of crying most of the time because he has invested himself in nothing else but his channel. He doesn't have a job. You got
to diversify, right?
And here's one of the reasons. This is diversify, of course, but one of the reasons why it is so fucking dangerous to have this low entry cost to get in, this low cost of entry to get into, being a life coach, being a YouTube star, being a whatever. And that's another thing. Being
people actually say
YouTube
that unironically.
Yeah, exactly. Well, to be an quote unquote celebrity, right? And I guess I am too in a way, but like I didn't start out saying, I wonder how I can be the best. I wonder how I can be like Steven Crowder. I wonder how I can be, Dave Rubin. I didn't start out that way. I was more concerned with getting the message out there, saving lives, helping dudes understand what the hell it was they were going through, because I had that period in time from the early 2000s all the way up to when I started my blog right around 2011. There is 10-11 years of conversations on So Suave that built me up and built all of this understanding of
it's a
sexual nature. Yeah, that was my foundation right there. And people think that I'm just pulling this shit out of my ass and going, well, he doesn't understand psychology. And I get it from both sides too, right? I get it from like the Evo Psych community who are too scared shitless to connect the dots that I'm connecting. And then you've got the guys who are saying, oh, he believes in evolutionary psychology and it's all about the individual and it's subjective relativism and blah, blah. And so I'm sort of balancing between these two really, vocal critics, but they don't understand
we're not doing that at all, though. You're talking to the audience. These other guys are just making a sideshow.
I got that, but here's the thing: is what was it? Warren Buffett says when the tide goes out, you'll know who was swimming without trunks, right? Who was swimming without trunks on, right? And guess what? Alexander Grace was swimming without trunks. And if you get into this game, if you get into being an celebrity, if you quit your day job to become a YouTube star, or you want to be a life coach or something like that, understand you are on borrowed fucking time, my friend. Because
everybody is.
Yeah, everybody is. I am too. Everybody in this chat, anybody who's in the sphere, you are on borrowed fucking time unless you have something else going on. It's funny because it used to be like the only way you could be a success in life was or up until this point, you have a day job and a side hustle. Well, guess what? Everybody's side hustle is now becoming their day job. And that side hustle is a castle built on sand right now. And so unless you have... Honest. Yeah, well, okay.
I don't get why would someone say that I want to be an e-celebrity? Like, I
don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody does.
This place because I just really don't want one of the guys speaking in Spurganese coming up to me while I'm out with a girl like, oh, Carl, is this the one you were writing about on your Twitter feed last week? Right, the one who likes to be tied up and whipped? I just don't want that. I mean, plus, I don't get when influencer became a fucking life choice. I'm like, influencer is a title that's on the scale of retardation. It's somewhere between life coach and relationship advisor.
I mean, what did you have to do to become an influencer? There are quote unquote influencers on Snapchat with premium Snapchat showing off their ass and their tits right now.
That's all they got to do is show some.
That's all they have to do. Again, the barrier to entry is zero.
It's very low.
Well, to be fair, Rollo, they do have to have some tits.
Yeah. Okay. Well, don't be. It's funny. I will say this though. I've seen somebody sent me a tweet of this really fat chick who is like a quote unquote teenage escort, and she looks like she's well, she's morbidly obese, first of all. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the barrier of entry. That is the barrier of entry to that job right there.
See, I know you guys get mad about it. I love this stuff because you think about it. If this is people that can carve out any amount of success, imagine showing up with a work ethic and an actual like beneficial thing.
Thank you.
To me,
Exactly.
That's where I was going next.
Thrive, because then I know all I have to do is 20% better, and I will thrive more than them.
All right.
My favorite tweet of the week earlier, because he tweeted out like something about how men expecting girls not to be fat. They don't understand the amount of work that goes into it for a girl not to get fat. And it's like, there's no work that goes into it. There's actually less work because you have to eat less.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she just wanted a back pat showing how hard it is for being a woman, but.
Well, like people hit me up and they said, "What did you mean when you said that a storm was coming?" I meant exactly what's happening to Alexander Grace. That's what I meant. Like that's gonna happen.
Well, it's
to
not
me.
just happening to him. If we're being fair, Rollo, like my channel, I'm sure you've noticed this with your channel, but a lot of the videos that I put out, they're automatically demonetized, and some of them
mine go to yellow
approved.
Mostly. I don't have any that are demonetized, but they all go to yellow. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, like if you're relying on ad revenue to live, you're a muppet, right? I mean, like that should be less than 10-15% of your income. You should have other revenue sources. Like for you, it's your books, right? Like Amazon, and what you draw off that works for you. I've got a community. I do one-on-one coaching. I know Ryan does the same thing. Like you got to diversify. But if you're going to sit there and cry like a baby that they took away your ad revenue, then like come on, really, like you're going to get what you deserve, man.
Well, welcome to being an adult. Things fail, and you have to bounce off of it and pick yourself back up.
It's like those Instagram thoughts that get their Instagram closed down, and they have like a total like spaz. Oh, what am I going to do? I'm insignificant anymore. I'm going to have to get a job at McDonald's. I used to be a prostitute. Ah! You've seen them.
Well, it's basically, the internet is a great way for people who would have to subside off $8 minimum wage, flipping burgers or being greeters at McDonald's. Maybe they could hit $100 an hour if they went for hookers or strippers. But that not qualifies for the dudes, but for the chicks anyway. But for the dudes, it's either, $8 an hour on Walmart, or it's, $200 an hour as a coach online with an agreement that the customer has to sign in advance that says, no results guaranteed. I cannot promise you all. I mean, I swear to God, this is like when you go into a meeting with like Cisco and Oracle, and the first line of the fucking PowerPoint presentation is nothing. We cannot be held accountable for anything that's said in this fucking meeting.
Oh, I know. Then what's the point of having the meeting? House inspectors are horrible at that. They always make you sign this thing when you get your inspection before you buy a house saying, if we don't find it, or if it turns out we were wrong, it's not our fault. Well, then why do I even have you in my house?
Why are you paying?
Oh, at this point, it's like the government mandates it. Welcome to Kanakistan. I can get rich talking about that for hours.
The other thing I don't think a lot of people realize is that when they get into it, and maybe they become like financially dependent on their YouTube channel, or they become dependent on whatever their coaching thing is, or their blog, or whoever they are as the brand of me. That's what I talked about in the 21 convention, the State of the Manosphere address, the brand of me. When you become financially dependent on the brand of me, I don't think people understand the requirements that are required of you to be successful at that, because the market right now is becoming so saturated by these guys. Life coaches are everywhere. Again, the barrier of entry is next to nothing. So what's happening is that particular market or that particular field, there are a few good guys that are good at it that can turn it around, but the rest of the guys are just saturating that market. And then second of all, they don't realize what it is that they have to do. They have to do it constantly. I was watching Tim Pool not too long ago.
They have to show up and do their job. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, Tim Pool because of the demonetization and because of his dependency on what it is that he's doing. I mean, and granted, he made his bed. He's got to do what he's got to do. But like, there ain't no days off. You don't get a day off. You go in and you do your shit and you're done. And maybe if that means you're doing like 3 or 4 videos a day, then that's what you're doing. Because what happens is these guys will get into this and they'll start making some money, and then they find that their cost of living goes up because what is it? Expense rises to me, or income rises to meet expense, or something like that. So it's like as soon as you get into a different tax bracket, that's when you start living a different lifestyle, and you become dependent on that revenue stream. So what happens is any threat to that revenue stream becomes like life or fucking death to you. Because here are these guys who have lived in these cubicle jobs for God knows how long, and they get into this hustle. And so when they become dependent on that, when their family becomes dependent on that, and I'm looking at Athol K for this one, if anybody wants to know who I'm thinking of here, they become dependent on the hustle. Any threat to that hustle is like life or death. And it's like, I better, if I come up and I say, I offer some intersexual dynamics or some sort of like some red pill truth that is bad for that business, everybody has to shout you down immediately, because they're all in the same boat too. Like I said, the market is saturated. So one guy comes up there. So like when I was butting heads with RSD's pat answer to the rational male is, well, it's truthful anger. Rollo's he's 100% right about everything he says, but it's all comes from a position of angriness, because they're selling positivity. That is bad for their business.
Yeah. Well, you know what makes me laugh about this, Rollo? And here's the funny thing. I know Rich hates talking about picking up chicks, but here's why I love talking about it, even though like I'm long-term relationship now.
I like talking about it.
That's what I mean. One-itis. So what are guys told? Don't get overly emotionally invested in that girl. Don't do sniper
One-itis
game.
sells, man.
Yeah. Sniper game was like, how do I get that one girl? It's been hard no and pickup since like the 80s. But here's the point. You're describing that same thing, take it out of the intersexual realm and put it towards business. It's the same thing. These guys make their business or their brand of me as a one-itis. And so as much as we say this is about just getting guys laid, you take these same rules and like Carl was saying, they're pattern recognition. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have one-itis for this one income stream. Maybe I should diversify. Maybe I should be prepared in case this thing goes away so I don't end up zeroing myself out. Like, how bad is that? What was his name again? The guy who got his YouTube channel killed?
Alexander Grace.
Alexander Grace. He had one-itis for his business. He didn't even let a woman do it. He had to do it himself.
He got zeroed out.
Well, it's that whole...
First year econ. One thing they tell you that's always a rule. If 80% of your income comes from one client, you need more clients.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if 80 to 100% of your revenue is YouTube ad revenue, you need to seriously diversify your Zen bomb.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm impressed though. YouTube revenue is really, really bad. So if that's 80%, you need to earn more money in general.
Exactly. And you know what?
That's really bad. I mean, like you have to have a channel like Casey Neistat or bigger to really make a living off it. And even then, I mean, like a guy like Casey Neistat's making most of his money off sponsorship deals and corporate deals and like, Samsung paying for stuff or, speaking fees. But it's that whole, what is it? It's uncomfortable truth versus comforting lies sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like comforting lies sell really well, because they're all built around the societal BS that we've been conditioned to believe our entire lives. Just be yourself. Buy her flowers and a box of chocolate. Never mind this hypergamy stuff, guys. That's
whatever you did is
spurred.
exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
Well, like what Carl was just saying right there, like a first-year econ student understands those things that you need to you need to diversify your clientele. You need to diversify whatever it is that you're doing so you're not dependent upon one thing. Well, guess what? If you would have gone to first year econ, you would know that, right? Because there is no barrier to entry into that. So you get guys who become dependent on that, and they do what pretty much a cornered animal is going to do, right? They're going to fight for whatever it is or for where their food source is coming from. And so if you go out there and you throw out some uncomfortable truth, it's not just an attack on their business, but it's also an attack on their ego investments. Mm-hmm. So you're attacking their personality as well.
Well, one of the issues is like Rollo's getting on it, and he has a very good point with no barriers to entry. And I think that's why so many guys loves, okay, screw it. Everyone just said monetization. Money doesn't matter to us, so fuck it. Everyone loves to jerk off to topics that are non-falsifiable. Like no one's ever challenged Rollo on anything he's ever written that was remotely evidence-based. It's always like this philosophical shit, like, well, you know, if every guy acts according to Rollo and act amorally, then Western civilization is going to burn. Well, fucking Rome looked funner. Or, you know, hey, well, what is the metaphysical views of the red pill? There isn't one. It's empirical. Metaphysics are, per definition, not empirical. That's why it gets split off between philosophy and actual science. Well, what if all these guys are running around ruining our future wives? Well, I'm sorry that your wife has pictures of me on her phone, but I mean, get in shape. It's like, well, capitalism sucks. Well, I never heard a rich dude say that capitalism sucks. It's always the broke motherfuckers.
You know, whenever I get challenged by a life coach, it's never, it's like, well, Rollo won't debate me. Well, I'll be happy to debate you if you will give me what is the topic of the debate. What subject do you disagree with me about that you want to debate with me? I'm happy to do that. But that's not what they want.
That's the perfect example.
But that's not what they want to do. All they want to do is pick a fight. They just want to do like YouTube blood sports. Well, I disagree with you because you're a cult leader. I'm going to debate that you're a cult. That's not a fucking debate, asshat. That's fucking.
John did that. He actually had
it's not
on there, and he's like, "Okay, you want to have a debate? Let's have a debate." What'd he do? The guy showed up half an hour late. He dropped an N-bomb on his channel, and then he spurred out with a Pikachu icon. I'm like, what the? And then he went back into his forum and started chest beating with his buddies. How alpha he was. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, my favorite thing about that is it's on John's channel, drops an N-bomb and an F-bomb. Says John is an idiot because he doesn't read. I asked him to please give me the book where he read whatever fallacy he was quoting from. He's like, you're an F because you read. It's like, it's pointless chest beating, and it's just like and one of the things that I actually took from all this crap that's been going on is like Jay-Z said it best, don't argue with fools because people from a distance can tell who is who. And what these guys do is they spurg out, they make you spurg out, and then they outspurg you by experience.
Wrestling with pigs, man.
The shit doesn't change, man. The stories do not change.
But like I said, I'm not even mad. It's probably the best red morning that I've ever had. Was right after a whole bunch of people attacked me and called me, was it Ryan Shecklestone or some crap like that? So,
oh yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I know, it was weird.
I love that meme.
I don't mind it, but I'm like a West Coaster. I hadn't actually met anybody Jewish until I moved to the East Coast. So for me, it's still like in the novelty phase. Like I'm learning about the holidays and that. And other than what the History Channel shows at 3 a.m, I have like no knowledge about the religion. So I'm more baffled than anything.
So like, as far as what we want to do going forward, I mean, obviously, I think we've pretty much diagnosed the problem right here. I mean, I think we want to make this a regular thing, right? We want to.
Oh yeah, I think so. Everybody wants it.
Yeah, and I think that it's better that we decentralize it and have it across everybody else's channels, right? Instead of just having it in one place, like you're hosting today.
Yeah.
And I think that requires people to be invested in the show as well, because you have to find out where it's going to be. I mean, where you're going to get alerts for the next show. So
I like that. It's a reciprocal value thing, because we're going to be.
I'll host, you host, Rich hosts, whoever hosts. I don't know, Carl. Can you even host?
Oh, I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm considering making one, but it's from what I'm hearing from you guys, YouTube is kind of a bitch to work with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a pain in the ass. But here's the thing. So the audience, at least for me, I always look at the audience and like, if they walk away from watching me run my mouth for 90 minutes, I want them to walk away with something that they can use in their life.
Right.
And I figure,
like a salsa recipe.
Yeah, you know what? Even something simple like a salsa recipe. It's low calorie. It's great if a guy's cutting. It's super spicy. And it's something, if you have a girl on a date, you can bring her with, so you're doing something together. So you're not just sitting there watching Netflix getting fat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how small it is. The fact right now, the competition out there, they aren't providing anything but making you feel good about having a jerk off in your living room. Mm-hmm. So you know what? I got me a salsa. Right now I'm better than RSD. I'll own it.
Yeah. God.
Rich is telling you here's how you can pay off some credit card debt. By the way, here's some things I learned from that single mom I dated when she ripped my heart out. Mm-hmm. Guys are walking away better than when they walked in. And you know what? If the price to entry is that they have to follow all of us and eventually parade around, look at our channels, then so be it. We're all in this one together.
Well,
That works for me.
and the other thing I think is we have I can't speak for you, but I'm pretty confident that you'll agree with this, is that if we, I've been doing this stuff for free for a very long time. I'm, helping guys out for up until the point where I had a book on Amazon. We're talking about like almost 12 years. I did it for free. I either did it through counseling, or I did it through So Suave conversations, or I did it through my blog. You're putting it out there for people for public consumption, because I did it because I didn't want to see another guy put a noose around his neck. I didn't want to see, I wanted guys to have this material. And that's why I wrote book 2, is because people kept saying, where were you when I was 25 and I made all these stupid decisions? Well, okay, if I have a mission statement, it's to help the guys out before the train wreck, right? To make sure that they're not, hurting themselves, life-wise. It basically is, how do you live a better life? Well, you do so with these tools. I'm not going to give you a prescription, because I don't believe in that shit. Yeah. But I will tell you, here are the hard truths. Use them, plan accordingly, live your life accordingly, and via con Dios, man.
Yeah, and then the rest of us, we kind of talk about, okay, we've taken these tools. This is what I did, and this is how my experiences went. Or it's like Rich's talk. I loved it. But actually, you know what, Rollo? I got to say this. It was the one thing that really got me cutting onions in this space is, and this is the one that's about you. I love it so much. I wish I could have saved all of it. But when you were getting slandered there for a while, it was a whole bunch of stuff that was completely out of left field. And what made me really well up is, and I'm going to fluff the audience here too, but you guys, there's that one guy, Nobody Breathe Through Your Balls. I'm sure you guys all know who he is.
Yeah. Yep.
But he was helped so much from you, like getting him past his relationship troubles, his marriage, and that. He took an entire weekend. He spent every hour investigating and looking to all these claims about how bad of a person you were. And he showed how all of them were lies. Could you imagine having an audience who's that appreciative of the things that you've given to them over time, that they're willing to go to bat for you for no reason at all, other than they just appreciate what you've done?
Yep. And I appreciate
and that's exactly like that Elon Musk example that idealizes the fact that Rollo didn't need to come out and drop the nuclear option, because there was a nuclear option. He just fucking sat back and he let the facts speak for themselves, and people stood up and they said, you know what, this is a load of crap. Here are the facts itemized, like that Breathe Through Your Balls guys did. Go check it out for yourself, right? And choose who it is that you want to believe.
It's humbling, though. When you think about it, it's a real responsibility to the audience here. Like, we're doing right by you guys, and you're doing right by us. I don't think you could get a better example of modern masculinity than that. Like, guys literally having each other's backs with no expectation of reciprocity, just because we've been that valuable to each other.
I was going to say,
like the approach I had with like Rich made me end the purge yesterday because he wanted to retweet something I really thought should be retweeted about
it was a good piece too,
credentials. But my whole thing with that was, I noticed that, like, I would rather have an audience of 10,000 guys who are really switched on, rather than an audience of 50,000 where 10,000 are switched on and 40,000 like the jokes. Because like, you have to be careful about who you spend your time on. And I got, like, to be honest, like, the audience here, I love you guys to death, but like, this audience here is like the opposite of thoughts. Like, whenever I have an issue with, whenever I start getting close with one of my plates, and I start thinking, like, I feel bad for having other girls, etc., one of the plates or the girl I'm thinking about does something stupid that makes me go, oh, Jesus, fuck all these bitches. And like, this audience is the opposite, because just when I get to that point where it's like, why the hell am I spending so much time and effort trying to help guys who are putting no effort in and really don't want to be helped, want to hear but just want their story heard? A couple of guys show up that actually want to do the work, that want to get better, and that actually deserves the help that can be offered. And those are the guys we're kind of here for. Like, if you're in the denial phase, if you're in the anger phase, whatever, I mean, guys have to be willing to make decisions for themselves, to build identities for themselves, and to do the work to move forward. I mean, we can't do it for you. It would be a hell of a lot easier if we could. Like, if we could set up a business where, like, Ryan lives your life for you for 3 weeks, or Rollo goes in and faces all your wife's shit tests in your body, like, what was it, Quantum Leap TV show? Like, Rollo leaps into your body for like a week.
And you and Rich plow their wives real good for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, and then again, it's what the proof is in, your accomplishments. The proof, or I should say, the proof is in your body of work. It's like, what have you put out there? Look at what the guy is saying. Look at what you've done. Look at what I've done. Look what you guys have done. Right. Again, it's the analogy of the personal trainer, the certified personal trainer is do you want the fat guy or do you want the guy who looks like he could win Mr. Nevada?
I would take the fat guy if he had 5 guys who used to be fat, but now
he's cheaper. He's a whole lot cheaper. Yeah, he's a lot cheaper.
No, I just mean the results. Yeah,
yeah.
If he's fat now.
I wanted to say thank you guys for supporting me for all of that. I don't want to say too much about that stuff right now. I'm not gonna start talking shit about anybody right now, because honest to God, I am proud of what I did and what we did for a while there. If I have a regret, it's that I'm going to miss that interaction with guys who come and hit me up in the hotel lobby and tell me, you saved my life, you saved my son's life. That's if I have a regret, it's not being able to have that engagement anymore. But I think that'll change at some point. We'll do something, or I'll get involved with something else where I'll make myself a little bit more available, I think. But like that right there was sort of a damn shame. And when I go and I read guys who tell me, dude, guys will look me in the face and they'll say, I had a date set to kill myself. And I read your book and it all made sense. And all the pieces of the puzzle came back together, and I canceled my date to kill myself. And because of that, my children have a father, and I'm doing a whole lot better now, guys getting zeroed out and stuff like that. And that, you can't put a price on that. You can't.
It was awesome.
Yeah. And so, and the price, as far as I'm concerned, is free, because I think that's just the way it should be. Because, like, for instance, of all these guys that are getting into, like we said, the low barrier to entry, of all these guys getting into this, how many of them would do it for free? How many of them were doing it for free before they got into and decided to make it their side hustle? I know that I did. I did it for 12 years. I did it for free. And like right now, like one of the reasons why Alexander Grace is having such a crisis right now is because he wouldn't do it for free. It wasn't about what he was doing so much as it were, I'm saying he didn't have a passion. The guy did some good work, but would you do it for free? Okay, prove it. It's the same thing like for musicians, right? Are you a musician because you love the art and you love the music? Okay, great. Would you do it for free? Most musicians will, because that's who they are and that's what they love. So it becomes an issue of truth versus hustle and what's more important to you. And for a lot of people, and nothing against it, if the hustle is all you're about, okay, great, go for it. But don't pretend you're about the truth. Don't pretend that you're going to, I'm into it for saving lives, but you're more into it because you have a YouTube channel. It's what was it?
It's disingenuous.
Yeah, it's disingenuous. What was it? I think it was, if anybody has ever read or listened to the biographic the biographic of Steve Jobs, like Steve Jobs, when he got kicked out of Apple, he didn't stop. He didn't go, okay, forget it, I'm done, because he had a genuine interest in making a dent in the universe. Yeah, he had a lot of hustle, don't get me wrong, but he was all about making stuff that he thought was going to be cool, that he thought was going to happen. And and I learned this in several of my liquor brands as well, is once, like, I'm an ideas guy, and what happens is to make a really good, successful brand, I think, is you have to have a good ideas guy, and then you have to have guys who can sell that idea. But when you just have one or the other, you don't have much of a business. You just have a guy who's a dreamer who's not really doing much with it, with his talent or with his ideas and anything. And if you just have a guy who's just a salesman, he's just like Electric Larry, man. He's just the guy who's
Vaporware.
Like, hey, man, yeah, he's a used car salesman guy. It doesn't matter what he's selling, just that he's selling. When you bring those two together, you have a really great company. But what really fucks a good company up is when the sales guys are the ones who are making the decisions for what the creative and what the ideas guys are making. And that's, I've seen several liquor brands that were brilliant liquor brands crumble overnight because the sales team decided that they were going to go make all of the branding and the they wanted to be ideas people. And honestly, none of them had any real good ideas. It's just that they wanted something to sell. They needed a widget to sell, and they were really good at it. But the shit that they were selling wasn't selling because it was a bad idea. And
did you have this problem much,
worry
The biggest problem is that if a liquor brand or a company is run by salespeople, the company goes bankrupt, people lose their jobs, and people find new jobs. The downside here is that if some guy falls for a bad salesman who tells him that girls are nice, they smell good,
Mhm.
and
and they shower every day.
Yeah.
and he falls for that, and he tries to use that to save his marriage, and he gets zeroed out. Or a guy who wastes his 20s getting fat and wifing up single mothers because he didn't get into the right game advice. Or the guy who spends his 20s blowing through all his money on flexing and renting expensive stuff and buying expensive stuff because he doesn't recognize that if he saves his money and builds his career and his future in his 20s, his 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, and hopefully 80s, he can gain a lot of benefit from compound interest. That has real hardcore consequences.
Mhm.
A company going bankrupt is a legal entity running out of money. Yes, it has some human costs, but the bigger thing is, and this is why I never got into consulting and try to avoid giving prescriptive advice. And if I tell a guy to do something, or I co-sign a guy to do something without cautioning him of the upsides and downsides, like I view this from an economist standpoint. I make judgments of value, not value judgments. I'll tell you the risks and the consequences either way of what you're trying to do. I won't tell you what to do, because if I tell you what to do and you go shoot yourself, that's not something I want to live with. If I give you, say you should do this, and there was some information I didn't have access to, and my call was a bad one, that's not your fault for doing what I told you. That's my fault for not getting that information and giving you good advice. I think the onus is on people giving advice and giving hints and giving other guys judgments to deliver the best judgments they can within the range of possibility, but still making sure that you tell the other guy that it's on you to make the decision about what you want to do.
Yeah, it's like lawyers. Lawyers don't tell you what to do, they advise you. It's the same thing. But that's why this is all heuristics. That's why I hate when people are ragging on, well, you say all women are like that. Well, this one's not like this one specific thing. It's not the point. You're not trying to, like you said, you're not prescribing. You're just saying, look, all guns are loaded. So if you treat all guns as loaded, you're going to be less likely to shoot yourself in the foot.
Right.
And so it's up to the guy. He'll realize if the gun's loaded or the gun's not loaded.
Yeah.
But you can't take responsibility for a guy's life. So by trying that, you're just being disingenuous.
That's exactly. And that's the fallacy of generalizations. Is like if there's one exception to that rule, then it disproves the whole rule. And that is female thinking right there. That is, if it affects me, then it must affect the whole universe. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. And, there's a lot of stuff that I'd like to get into with you guys would be maybe some, I don't know, deeper shit, as far as like, blank slate equalism and stuff like that, because that's really where that comes from, is people want to believe in subjective relativism. They want to believe that we're all individuals. So it's all about whatever the individual is all about. And
oh yeah, we got tons of hours on these things. I plan on getting into all the stuff, everything from basic stuff to complex stuff, or deep stuff. I shouldn't say complex.
The other thing is, and just on the topic at hand is, I think that when you look at organizations like the Good Man Project, or you look at an organization like We Are Man Enough, you're seeing, or you look at these sort of studies for masculinity at various universities right now, where they essentially just want to send men back to re-education camps so that they can rid themselves of toxic masculinity and think correctly. We're going to see more and more of that, because as the red pill becomes less marketable, what will become more marketable will be inching closer to what, say, like the Good Man Project is doing and what We Are Man Enough is doing, because it has to be this, it has to fit in with something that that's going to keep you sustained, right? It's got to be something that you can generate revenue from. And, you know, sometimes people say, well, you know, the red pill's so negative. It's like, no, it's not. It's a tool. It's just, you're just not seeing it for the positives and the opportunities that it represents. But because it's truthful, it threatens organizations just like the you know, the Good Man Project. Or
yeah, Rich, did you read that one on the Good Man Project they put out?
Yeah, it's a
that's the one with Lewis Howes in it.
Yeah,
I think so. Where it started off that you're definitely not a rapist, but you probably are. Like that was the lead-in.
Yeah, if you're a man, you're definitely a rapist. Well, it all boils down to the assumption that, you know, men are always dangerous, men are always wrong, men are always abusive, men are, you know, fill in the narrative, right?
Mhm.
You know, but that's what the red pill kind of shines a light on. It's like, hey, you know, here's some kind of underlying facts. Here's the motivation behind it. This is why they're drawing these narratives. So just understand these. Oh, stop talking! You're angry. You hate all women. You're a misogynist. And it's like, okay, you know, you're gonna get the message out to some people. I mean, it's the reason why the Good Man Project has probably a far larger audience than all of us combined, right? Because people like the comfortable lies. They don't want to hear the uncomfortable truth. They want the comforting lies, right?
Mhm.
Which is so weird how a guy would rather self-flagellate by thinking of himself as an evil. I think that's why men need feminism more than women. Because women,
Yeah.
feminists shout at them, call them
Yeah.
toxic masculinity. Well, at least it's masculine. I'll take it. Like, come on.
Yeah, and they wonder
Have some
why
dignity.
80% of them are not getting laid, right?
Right. And well, you know why men need feminism is because it's a framework for them to understand. Because otherwise, they've got to create it for themselves because they have no model for masculinity. They have
Yeah.
no
Oh, quick
model.
cut off here. Just giving a shout out to, why do you guys do this? Shlomo
Goldscheckelstein.
for the super chat. Awesome seeing the RP loyalists back together. Don't fluff us too much here. We're just a bunch of dudes who talk about loyalists makes us sound too much like the monarchy. But thank you. Anyway, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say is I don't know where we're gonna go with this just right now, but all I know
We're
is
just shooting the shit.
yeah, we're just
Yeah.
shooting the shit, and I think that and we'll probably have some more organized topics or something later on. I think the plan right now is just to sort of share this as a community show, like between me, Ryan, and Rich, as we can do it. And then you know, because you know, it's a damn shame that we you know we need something like this because there's nothing else like this. There's nothing else like this right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which whatever. Step up to the challenge.
We need engagement. You know, people were asking me, you know, oh, Rollo, are you going to keep doing your own channel? Of course, I'm going to keep doing my own channel, man. Of course, I'm going to keep doing the Red Pill. Well, it's not Red Pill. I'm renamed it because I renamed my show The Rational Male because I'd really like to focus more on the Rational Male as my brand, but also, you know, the red pill right now is, you know, people say, well, you're stepping away from the red pill. Yeah, I am. Honest to God, I am stepping away from it, but it's mainly because
It stepped away from you.
it stepped away from me. Yeah. And it's a term that is just virtually meaningless right now. It's become so
that's honestly how I felt about it, you know, earlier this year is, you know, the red pill turned on.
Maybe I just didn't come to it. So, you know, did, here's the thing is one of the reasons like I wanted to stick with the red pill as a term is because what else is there? Do we have another name? Give me another name. Give me a better
strong
alternative.
Identifying, you know, representation of the truth, right? You know, you've got these blue pills, purple pills, red pills, and black pills. There's really only 4. We focus on the uncomfortable truths, and it is what it is. But I mean, I never use that tag in any of my videos. It's never in the description. I never have it in the title. I personally don't like it because I think that it focuses too much on chasing women, and it idealizes that. It puts them on a pedestal. It distracts men from finding their purpose in life and chasing excellence. And I get that women are a big part of that, and trust me, I love women. You know, contrary to popular belief that I'm a woman-hating misogynist, and you know, God forbid my daughter is under my care, blah 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 narrative. It's like, man, it's just people just don't get it, and when they don't get it, it's point and sputter and insult and manufacture indignation, and that's why. You know, when somebody calls on my show, like on the Monday night show that I do with Before the Train Wreck, when somebody calls and it's like some low-hanging question from a 21-year-old that has no confidence, you know, zero masculinity, and they're like, how do I get girls? And I'm like, this is not the How Do I Get Girls show. I'm like, there's other shows out there that do that. Go find that. That's not this show.
Mhm. Yeah, like I'm happy to talk to guys about the nuts and bolts of pickup artistry if they want to. I'm cool with that, but like I think I'm cool with that in the context that that's one part of the equation. There's more to it than just that.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not just like
more to it. Just
how
that.
do
Well,
I
it's
go?
like
How do I
food.
get my
If you're
girlfriend
hungry, all
back?
you can think about is eating. If you're starving, food is the only thing on your mind. But once you're full, then sure, you'll eat if caviar comes rolling by. But that's when you focus on what do you do after you're full. And that's kind of how I treat sex.
Yeah, Carl said something a few weeks ago. Sorry to hop in, but Carl said something a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, I think, and it was something along the lines of, look, you know, if you're building wealth, if you're lifting, if you're competitive, if you're into some kind of combat sports, if you're putting your dent in the universe and you have a purpose and girls don't show up, cool. It doesn't matter, you know, because you're at least leveling up yourself. You know, if your SMV was a 7 last year and you've moved up to an 8, however it is you want to measure it on that scale, you've just become a better version of yourself. At some point, you know, women will enter your frame. You know, they will deem you a high enough value man that they'll actually not be as much work as you think or as elusive as you think they normally are.
Well, that was
I know I kind of butchered up that tweet, but
no, I don't remember. I tweet a lot, so I don't remember all of them. I'm still kind of in awe of the fact that Rollo knows all of his blog posts, so he can link them to every guy who questions him on Twitter.
It's getting harder.
Yeah. So my thing was just with, at some point, PUA was about getting girls. PUA is 100% dedicated to getting pussy. Like, what kind of drove me away from that sphere back in like 2007, 2008 was the fact that I saw guys dropping out of engineering programs to go live in like a 7-man commune in a lair in some kind of third world city like fucking Miami. And the whole thing with that was like, I saw guys burn their entire future to get pussy now. And I kind of decided that, you know, the girls will follow you at some point. But if you're focused on just getting girls, where do you end up? You end up sharing a Twitter picture of you where you look like a 40-year-old lesbian. And the whole problem I have with that is like, once the girls go away, what's left of you? Who defines who you are? Is it the fact that you're a pickup artist? Well, sorry, if you go on a 3-month cold streak, there goes your fucking identity. I mean, you have to identify yourself through what you accomplish and what your mind is able to will into the world. And beyond that, just focus on making yourself into a man that has a lifestyle that is enjoyable to you. And eventually, some girls will come along that wants to enjoy that lifestyle with you. It's not that difficult. And just keep in mind that there are certain, and just to kind of deal with the whole translate to Spurganese, if you're like, well, my enjoyable lifestyle is smoking weed, playing Fortnite in my mom's basement all night. Yeah, sorry. Even if you're the world's best at that, girls are probably not going to come. But if you're a reasonably normal guy who focuses on making money, being in shape, being well-dressed, being a well-adjusted, reasonably normal human being, the girls will eventually come into your sphere who find you attractive. Just don't get below that. You have to be this tall for me to ride you scale that every girl has inside her head. And there are certain hard disqualifiers. Like if you're 400 pounds, most girls are not going to want to get on that ride. There's too much of a risk of getting crushed.
All right, quick cutoff here. Just a shout out to Philip Wilson. Thanks for the super chat. And Peter Crozen. Rich, lower your camera. We can only see your hat. It's a nice hat, though.
It's a nice hat.
Yeah, this is not a red hat.
Yeah, this is not a red hat, right? Fuck.
I will do a quick thing, though, on Carl's. The one caveat I'd put on that is those guys that do the build it and they will come thing. They work their 20s and 30s to build themselves the perfect career and perfect life. And they built this covert contract that think girls will come if you're the best provider ever. I would say take enough of that pickup with you so that you learn to enjoy yourself. Because if you don't get a girls when you have a mattress on the floor, you're never going to know what real desire looks like. You're always going to have that nagging thought in the back of your head. Is she with me because I have an R8? Is she with me because I was in a band? Like, is she with me for these things I own or because of me? And so if you don't have any game when you have nothing, then you're going to get hoodwinked at some point. And a lot of these guys find that when the girl's just with them because, oh, I'm 28 at the tail end of I lost my 20s. This guy looks like a soft landing. I'm going to fall in love with him for the next 6 years and then slowly dwindle it to once every 3 months sex.
Hey, Ryan, do we still wrap up at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, I was thinking wrap it up 1 o'clock here. Keep it nice and tight because I want to get out in the sun myself too.
All right. Summers are too short.
Well, you already got at least some color, Ryan. I mean, it's not much, but it's just kind of beige.
20 minutes, I'll be the Donovan of Rule Zero. Trust me.
Well, that's a solid one because that way we can actually convince people that you're our token.
Okay, so
that's a hard sell. It's a hard fucking sell right now.
So for the people that are watching this and who will watch this, are we planning to do this at 8:30 on Saturdays? Are we going to keep that as a regular time, just so people have at least some rough idea of when we can get back together?
Why don't we just tell them to follow us on social media for the announcement? That'll force them to at least start,
I think we should at least
interacting with us.
I think we should at least aim for this time slot.
Saturday morning, same place, same time. Yeah. I'm not going to be around for the next 2 Saturdays. I got my kid next weekend, and I'm doing a 4,000-kilometer rally through the States in the R8 with like 50 other guys. So if you want to see
come to Reno. Come to Reno.
No, we're not going that far, man. I don't think my ass can sit in the exotic car for fucking 6 days.
There's a lot of open road. There's a lot of open road in the Nevada desert.
Do you guys have speed limits there?
70, but no.
But not really. Yeah, they're kind of like 90, guidelines, right? They're more optional.
Yeah, and you have a Starbucks with Wi-Fi every 50 miles that you can stop at anyway.
There ain't no speed limits if you have a radar detector. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I'm told these rallies are a little bit awkward that way.
Yep.
All right, so I guess we'll leave it.
If Rich kills himself in an R8 going 200 miles an hour on a Nevada road and he spills his Starbucks in his lap while podcasting with one hand.
Yeah.
Dude, I will milk that for all it's worth. I will cry and say we need the Rich donate to my R8 in memorial for him. Everything. I will monetize your death, Rich.
Have at it, man.
But I guess, does anybody need at this point to say how you can get a hold of us? Does anybody in the chat not know how to find Rich, me, Rollo, Carl? Do you guys want to plug before we go?
TheRationalMale.com. Find me there. Also, go to Amazon if you don't have my books. Even if you do have my books, go buy some more.
Let me just do
your friends.
Yeah. Let me just do one quick plug just for a business here that I've opened up. There's a video on my Instagram. So if you're an entrepreneur running a business, you're a founder, and you're looking to grow it, I got 2 openings in one of my forums, so you can check that out. But that's it. I mean, like, I'm pretty easy to find on social media if you just look it up.
Right. I also, if you have read any of my books and you're in the chat right now, thanks, Jack Napier. If you've read any of them and you haven't put a review on Amazon, that would really help. That would really help me out the most right now. And then, of course, copy and paste the URL of this video and put it in your Twitter stream or put it somewhere so that it's a little bit more popular. That always helps as well too, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Plus, throw in your favorite quotes. I always like seeing, because some of the stuff I forget we said, and then when you put it in there, I'm like, that's funny. I can't believe we said that.
Yep. Yeah.
What about you, Carl?
We need a quote contest.
Yeah.
Throw it up there, blacklabellogic.com. Thank you all for watching. We have 276 watching now, 191 likes, 4 dislikes. You know what I said in chat? Get those likes up, or we'll have cupcakes, crayons, and cakes back on this channel before you know.
No.
All right. Anyways, guys, let's enjoy some summertime thing. Okay, take care.
All right,
get out there.